Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another video. This is Rayo and Tech. I hope everyone's doing well. I do have a quick presentation today just regarding my Lab 3 for my CYB-610 Intro to Penetration Testing course. So sit back, enjoy. If you guys like the video, just be free to like it and then subscribe if you would like. If you want some more additional content. Other than that, let's get on with the video. For this lab, we were given the tools of using penetration testing, and with that being able to do different types of techniques in order to simulate different types of penetration tests. And so one of the most common techniques in terms of reconnaissance in penetration testing is the technique of Nmap. Nmap is known for being a command where it could be able to show different types of ports, which may be open, different configurations within the network. And so what I was able to do was I was able to do an Nmap scan on both of my Kali Linux and also my Chioptrix level 1 virtual machine. So these are two different types of virtual machines which I have running with VirtualBox. It's really cool because what you're able to do is have different IP addresses, be able to scan what networks are kind of within you, and then decide from there how to conduct the penetration test. So if you look at my photos over here, you can see that there's 4 different types of scans. But this is for the scan, which is, as I mentioned, for the Chioptrix level 1 machine. So in terms of doing the command, I did two types of Nmap commands in order to do additional scans and more information. So on here, I have the Nmap scan of my Kali Linux virtual machine, and using nmap.sp as well as the IP address, I was able to pretty much see what ports were open, as well as also doing a scan on some of the other different networks as well, within what may have been within the actual range as well. So this is really good reconnaissance tool in terms of just learning how to identify different networks and then from there decide where to pursue the actual vulnerability. So remember, all this is ethical for ethical purposes. So make sure to stay within accordance and compliance with the law. All right. On this next step, I have multiple commands which I have here of the Nmap commands. So as I mentioned, Nmap is mainly used for the actual network scanning. So the one which I want to point out is the picture on the left. So I use an nmap-a. So what this command does is that it's more of an aggressive scan. So you're able to pretty much detect the actual operating system and also the version of what it may be on, and also see if there's any scripts which may be ran on there, which could potentially be ran. So it's a very nice way of doing a more intensive scan, which will give you more information and more detail of what you would like to work off. Also, you can scan different web pages as well. So I have Google and ESPN here. And so with that, I was able to not only just see the actual IP address, but also see which ports they have open, and also you can kind of just see the overall network structure. So some of these different types of commands are very useful depending on if you want to do different types of reconnaissance or what you're looking for information. But that's where it's very nice. So based off of this had me thinking. So with all these commands and finding all these potential vulnerabilities, what would be the best way to ensure that these vulnerabilities wouldn't occur anymore? It's not really more of a prediction. It's more of an estimate in a sense. And so the best thing to do would be more of a vulnerability matrix or a vulnerability map. And so with this, you can kind of test out different types of scenarios which could occur regarding, let's say, if the network is not secure, then you can understand some of the different types of damages which could occur, especially to a company. So on this next page, you see the vulnerability map. So one of the biggest things I see in terms of having an unsecure network is that you can have something called a man-in-the-middle attack, where there can be someone on the other side of where you're sending your actual request to access that network, and they should be able to intercept it And once they do that, then they should be able to pretty much intercept the traffic, maybe potentially intercept potential login information, sensitive information, and that's very scary because no one wants that to happen. Also, art poisoning is another thing as well. It's pretty much like poisoning the actual like network itself. And so now you think that that's the network which you're trying to go to, but it's actually a false network. So by having like open ports like a telnet, for an example, that should be able to be like an indication that you need to increase the security within the company. So those are just two types of vulnerabilities, but you also see there's more like DDoS attacks, weak encryption, as well as SQL injection. SQL injection is mainly used for like web pages, so that's another thing just to worry about. But yeah, that type of vulnerability map kind of gives you like an insight of how it kind of works. So the next thing is I'll bring up the flaw hypothesis methodology. And so what this is known for is this is an approach which is used in the field of actual penetration testing. In terms of security assessments, it helps identify and analyze any potential vulnerabilities which may occur. And so it's very nice because you're able to kind of predict, let's say, if a vulnerability is going to happen, you can predict what's going to happen and also the steps of what should be best in terms of mitigating it if that vulnerability actually exists. And so, yeah, first things first, the first step is system understanding. So if you understand the actual components of the system, as well as the hardware, the software, and the protocols, and also the network configurations, what happens is that you're able to see how they all work together. And as it would be better to understand in terms of what the security may be of the actual system. Number two is flaw hypothesis. So this is a widely used method for conducting penetration testing. It reviews motivation for penetration testing and penetration test planning. And what it also does is that it's more of like an error of commission of a system which we able to allow in order for like protection mechanisms to be bypassed. So I'll break that down in like a simple way. So the way we think about that is that we have to make sure that there's a certain room for error that it cannot go past, because if it does, then sensitive information could be actually taken and breached. And companies pay money for people to secure their information, as well as they have security teams. So you just gotta keep that in mind. Number three is hypothesis testing. So based off of the actual methodology, it's like you're trying to conduct to see what the actual error would be. Then from there, you actually conduct a test of what it may be. So usually in terms of the hypothesis testing, this is known for different types of techniques like penetration testing, as well as vulnerability assessments. And so these active types of tests can help you test for any potential vulnerabilities which may occur. Number four is flaw generalization. It's a step of analysis for any potential discovered vulnerabilities. It also helps boost security measures across different systems. And so flaw mitigation is known to be the overall mitigation of any potential and new flaws and vulnerabilities that can be across the actual system itself. And so these are like the 5 steps of the flaw hypothesis methodology. And so it works very well in the field of like cybersecurity, as well as the field of penetration testing and ethical hacking. So based off of my hypothesis of the findings of what I had for the actual report, I think the best thing is to understand how to increase security and just make sure to mitigate any potential vulnerabilities. So that's very nice in terms of just ensuring that the work which we're doing must be safe and it also must be secure. And so it's consistent to do network scans. It's consistent to make sure that you have firewalls on. It's consistent to make sure you have different types of like security systems on, because what this does is that it helps you overall in just making sure that it's a safer environment for yourself. And once you do that, make sure you go the extra mile and make sure that your friends and family and loved ones are all safe as well, in terms of digitally safe, because we want to make sure that we live in a world where everyone's protected, especially over digital, because this is a world where we use a lot of technology. So let's just make sure we make a safe digital world one step at a time. Anyways, lastly, this was the reference which I used from Wesley. It's pretty much like the penetration testing, information security. It was a resource article. Very nice, very informative. Yeah. Other than that, that's just like my first lab 3 for the CYB-610. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. An absolute blessing. Have an amazing day. I'm going to be posting more videos up very soon. There's a couple more assignments which are going to be coming through later on throughout the week. So I'm excited to put more content out. If you guys like it, just like the video, comment, subscribe. Other than that, stay blessed. Rayo and Tech out. Peace out.